Imagine a childhood where the world itself felt like a gently open door, wide, inviting, and waiting to be explored. A childhood where the streets were your compass, the sky your clock, and freedom wasn't a privilege but the air everyone breathed. For those who grew up in the 1970s, this wasn't nostalgia, this was Tuesday. There were no hovering parents tracking every step, no schedules packed tight like sealed envelopes. You stepped outside and the day unfolded in your hands. No supervision meant no shortcuts. If a game fell apart, you fixed it. If friends disagreed, you brokered peace. If boredom crept in, you turned it into a new invention. The world asked you to choose, to try, to fail, to try again. And you answered with scraped knees and shining eyes. Wasn't that freedom a kind of quiet teacher? A teacher that spoke in unstructured afternoons and unsolved problems, pushing you to self-plan, to negotiate, to create something out of nothing. Again and again, the rhythm repeated. Explore, experiment, understand. And in that repetition, executive function didn't just develop, it rooted itself deeply, like a tree learning where the sun rises. This early autonomy shaped more than childhood play. It became a silent architecture beneath adulthood, self-confidence built brick by brick, self-responsibility carved from every choice made without someone holding your hand. And as we step into the deeper layers of this generation's psychology, one question rises gently, inevitably. What did this freedom awaken that later decades quietly lost? Step a little deeper into that world and you'll notice how children of the 1970s learned to read people the way others read weather. They observed who was easygoing, who carried tension, and when a quiet retreat was wiser than joining the crowd. Wasn't every sidewalk, every backyard, every front porch a small social classroom? Without explanations, they sensed emotions through tone, posture, the flicker of an eye. Notice, interpret, respond. Again and again, this rhythm shaped their instincts. Hypervigilant social awareness didn't feel clinical. It felt natural, necessary, almost woven into the pulse of childhood freedom. They learned to assess risks through lived moments, not warnings. They learned to understand body language because misunderstanding it had real consequences. And with no adult stepping in to mediate, their social sensitivity grew sharper, truer, more grounded in reality. From this quiet apprenticeship in human behavior, another inner strength began forming, an ability to sit with themselves, to face silence, to discover what unfolds in the space between moments. If social life in the 1970s was a noisy playground, then boredom was the quiet room at the end of the hall, a place many were sent to without instructions, no phone, no tablet, no endless scroll. Just you, the ticking clock, and a long afternoon. Do you remember that feeling? That strange mix of restlessness and possibility, like standing on the edge of an empty stage? The kids who grew up in the 1970s, boredom wasn't a glitch to be fixed. It was a creative trigger. When nothing happened, you had to make something happen. Rearranging your room for the third time, sketching worlds no one else could see, turning a stick, a driveway, and a crack in the pavement into a story. Slowly, almost secretly, you learnt to self-soothe, to sit still without constant stimulation, to listen to your own thoughts. Deep thinking, imagination, and a satisfaction in being alone took root, preparing the mind for the next challenge, not just handling stillness, but also meeting real risk and impact. From those long, quiet, unsupervised afternoons, the story of the 1970s childhood moves from stillness to impact. Outside, risk wasn't a warning label, it was the open landscape itself. You climbed trees that swayed in the wind, jumped off bridges into questionable water, rode your bike without a helmet. The lessons didn't come as lectures, they came as bruises, as scrapes, as that sharp sting of gravel in your skin. Wasn't that a different kind of education? Not risk explained, but risk experienced. You failed tests, lost games, forgot your lines on stage. No one rushed in to rescue your pride. No committee, no cushion, no carefully padded landing. Again and again, you met consequence, you met limitation, you met yourself. Slowly, you built a calibrated sense of danger. What was truly life-threatening, what was simply scary, what was worth trying anyway. Failure became feedback, not a verdict. A step, not a wall. And from that dance with real risk, resilience took root, preparing the 1970s child to face adulthood's heavier blows and the long, patient waits that would come later. Maybe the most underrated teacher of the 1970s wasn't a person at all, but time itself. You waited a week for your favorite show, months for a toy, a whole year for vacations. Waiting wasn't a glitch, it was a rhythm, training your heart in delayed gratification, teaching your mind to hold desire without breaking. That slow pace carved patience, softened the urge for instant gratification, made reward feel earned instead of delivered. And now, as many who grew up in the 1970s stand on the other side as parents, the lesson quietly returns. You don't rush to rescue every time your child struggles. You let them face small risks, small failures, small disappointments. You ask, gently, what do you think you could do differently next time? Because, deep down, you know this. Comfort passes, moments pass, but competence, character, and quiet inner strength are what truly remain over time. If you grew up in the 1970s or love someone who did, maybe you've recognized pieces of your own story in these echoes tonight. Don't let them fade. Stay with me a little longer, like sitting on a familiar front porch as the sun goes down, sharing one more memory, one more question, one more quiet smile. Hit subscribe, stay close, walk this path together, breathe with this community, and let's keep exploring what the past is still whispering to our present.